And what's that weird lump in your pants?
What's going on, dudes and dudettes? Yes, freaking wind is affecting both my state and my freaking big ass lips, so hopefully they won't get too effed up tonight for Halloween, but yeah, just have to deal with it, so hopefully it doesn't bug people. No, I did not get a piercing. But to start off with some USC football news, so Brew McCoy, talented guy who once went to Texas. Well, he was first committed to USC, then went to Texas, and then officially came back to USC during the summer. But because of his ineligibility, that the NCAA didn't give an answer yet, and plus he was dealing with a mysterious illness, they decided to just shelve him for this year. So hopefully it was a red shirt, whether medical or any other red shirt, so he could use that up, and so he'll officially be a freshman next year in his second year as a sophomore in college. So hopefully this will all be behind us and he can get back on the field and help us winning. Then also Joey Bosa, the defensive end for the Chargers, was named the AFC Defensive Player of the Week, which is awesome. And then even his brother too was named the Defensive Player of the Week in the other side, which is really cool to see two brothers do that. I don't know if that's ever happened in recent history, but that's pretty cool to see. Then other Chargers news, so they released their kicker Chase McLaughlin, so that's kind of positive news that they might be getting back Michael Badgley, who was a really good weapon for them last year. And then they promoted, we get this, Tavon Campbell, the cornerback, from the practice squad to the main squad. And then they also signed an offensive tackle in Tyree St. Louis to the practice squad. Once again, a bunch of guys' names I don't know, but we'll see what they can do. They've been around, I guess, for a bit, so we'll see what can happen. Then some Anaheim Ducks news. So Josh or John Manson, that guy, the defensive guy that I said was out in the last video, we found out officially he's going to be out 5 to 10 weeks. That's kind of weird projection of being out, because it could be for a little over a month or a couple weeks past 2 months, which is kind of weird, but just have to wait and see. I'm pretty sure that's why they made that trade for that other defensive player I mentioned, so hopefully it's nothing too serious. But then the Ducks also beat the Winnipeg Jets, I believe 7-4, which is good to see. And then I believe they play tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, from this video, so hopefully they can get another W under their belts. Then the NCAA came out saying that they're gonna try to work by 2021 to be able to help pay for play on the players that are there in college, so that they can be able to make money on the likeness. But it's just retarded, because that's what California, Ohio, Florida, New York, they have already been pushing in their own states to have that available for any college person, whether it's football, lacrosse, anything like that already. And then now they're just kind of trying to take credit for it, and they might F it up in 2 years, and it probably won't even happen, but at least those states are ahead of the game and it will happen anyways. So I think this is kind of BS, they're taking credit for it, but it does leave open the opportunity of that video game I've been mentioning quite a bit whenever this topic comes up, and it's even more of a possibility now, which is awesome. But we do see that, I don't know why people keep putting up the next year, like NCAA football 2020 or something like that, when technically it wouldn't be able to go into effect around 2021. So it's not like you can make a video game yet. And then plus video games, especially those, are weird, because whenever it would come out in like 2013, say that last one, but then it said NCAA 14 video game on there. So it's kind of weird how they're always a year behind. So technically, if you want to make a video game picture or whatever for it, it should be NCAA football 2022, I believe. So get it right, people. Just messing with my head. But yes, the random Tom DeLonge fact going on. He, in that Instagram video, he did have like a sneak peek of a Angels and Airwaves song he's working on, and saying that it sounded like his other band, Boxcar Racer, that he did while he was still in Blink-182, but then kind of led to the genesis of Angels and Airwaves, because the other guy was upset that he did that solo without him. But he did, in that Boxcar Racer band, have the drummer of Blink-182 on there, because he likes to experiment and do a lot of different things, which is what they did on that record. And that's why the other guy shouldn't have gotten mad in the first place. But he said it sounds like Boxcar Racer, Tom DeLonge said on the post, but then luckily that guy wrote back in the comments saying that, oh, nothing sounds like Boxcar Racer without me, with the emoji smiley face, which is, I think it's really cool that they're still, you know, interacting with each other, whether it's online or. And I heard in a recent interview with Mark Hoppus, when he was interviewed in England this past week, actually mentioning Tom DeLonge's name, and that he actually talked to him like in a recent month. So that's really cool that there's still at least not as much excuse me, bad blood. But also in the interview I heard that Tom DeLonge said main reason why he had to leave because he was so busy with this UFO and government stuff, but now that he has so many people working for him on that side, he can focus more on the music and movies and everything like that, which is what I'm happy about. And hopefully this can be somewhat of a return in the next couple years to Blink-182, so we'll see about that. Then the Lakers, they beat the Memphis Grizzlies, and I forget the score, but I think everybody got tacos that day because they kept the away team under 100, which was cool. But Anthony Davis pretty much made history that game with a 40-20 game, 40 points, 20 rebounds, and did it in only 3 quarters, which was, I think, another pretty much record, and no Laker has done that since Shaq, and I'm pretty sure he took the whole game to do that. So it's really awesome to see that, especially when Anthony Davis was nursing a sore shoulder. He almost didn't even play in the game, and during halftime it was bothering him too, but after that, in the third quarter, is when he scored most of his points, getting to the foul line, which is really cool. So I'm kind of glad he was able to get some of those records and still show he can play. But like I said, because he's on my fantasy team, I want to trade him, but then it's like I kind of do, but I kind of don't. But is it worth keeping him if they might rest him a couple games here and there with the type of production he's having? But I don't know. I have to think about that, rack my brain around that. Then since it's a bigger thing, I'm gonna cut this video down, and yeah, I'll get to the rest of the crap. So let's hope I'm not going too fast for this part of the video, but they did do a new mock draft post trade deadline the other day because the stupid Chargers did not do anything once again for the trade deadline. So now Bleacher Report did something where they said that if the draft were today, the Chargers would select Justin Herbert, the quarterback from Oregon, which obviously I've been up and down on because he hasn't been as consistent as he was supposed to be, because he was supposed to be a top pick if he came out last year. And USC actually plays Oregon this weekend, so it should be really good to see not only him, but hopefully USC can win that game too. But it's going to be pretty tough, top 10 team in Oregon right there. But then surprisingly, Austin Jackson, a tackle from USC, was selected very last pick in the first round to the Patriots, which I thought was interesting. But the way that they mocked that draft, a lot of the top tackles were already taken. I'm just kind of surprised that they still have him in the top 10, if not even like top 8 or 7 overall tackles in college right now, which is pretty crazy because he was so inconsistent at the beginning of his tenure at USC. But this year he's actually been pretty good, even though he donated bone marrow to save his sister's life as of right now, during the summer, before the season started, which is really cool for him. And I believe she's still doing good, which is good to hear. But yeah, surprisingly, he still kept his athleticism and strength and everything like that. He was able to build back up and is playing. So I guess the Patriots would have the affordability to do that type of trade because they have so many picks, and you know, they can pick up whoever the heck they want. And that was pretty cool to see. But it got me thinking as far as when I saw this other thing that said what the Chargers would need when it came to the draft next year would be, their first priority should be an offensive tackle, and then it would be a quarterback, and then a wide receiver 3 option, which was pretty interesting because in that draft thing, that mock draft, they made him get a quarterback in that first round, which is pretty interesting. But I kind of think some of the better quarterbacks, some of the good quarterbacks, you could probably wait, and same thing with the wide receivers, because there's such a huge list of guys that like a wide receiver this year. But it's, to me, the offensive tackles you have to take a chance on, especially if you're picking in the middle or the top lower end of the draft, like a worst pick. But I think a trade might also be in the cards for them to get one of these guys, because they definitely need some tackle help, and any one of these guys that I have right here are really talented and could help them out a lot. So the top overall guy seems to be Andrew Thomas, the tackle out of Georgia. He's a giant, huge dude, and he looks like he could do anything. And they have one of the top rushing games and like yards per rush in the whole entire country, especially in a tough conference. So definitely a good guy to look at. And then another guy I really like is Tristan Wirfs, the tackle out of Iowa. Another place that likes to run the ball a lot, and they definitely run towards his side a lot as well. So another easy choice right there, a pick for the Chargers in that first round. Then also a guy like Trey Adams from Washington, the tackle. He looked like he was about to come out last year, but then decided to go back to school, and still projected to be, top 2 round pick. And if you have to take a chance on him, depending where you're picking in that first round, if the Chargers try to win some more of these games to the end of the season, then probably have to take a chance on him just because of how big and how much of his production is at college. Then also, Stanford is another big place to go look at because they like running the ball and are effective at running the ball, and tackles are really good there. So Walker Little is another guy they could look at. I just think gotta get one of these guys, whether it's the first or second round, and then I think it's definitely more apparent and important to get those guys now early in the draft instead of waiting and seeing what's available, because there really isn't much after these guys. But when they said quarterback would be the second thing because they're trying to replace Phillip Rivers, obviously my head went to Justin Herbert, the one that they had picked, because he's supposed to be projected really high, and guys like Jalen Hurts or Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, they're probably going to be picked higher for teams that are looking for a quarterback. So maybe Herbert can sneak down there into the draft, middle of the draft. Another guy I like is Jake Fromm, the quarterback from Georgia. He's always interesting because he never looks like 100% the greatest quarterback, but he's very efficient, especially numbers wise, and doesn't turn the ball over that much. But he also beat out 2 guys. Another guy I'm going to talk about on this list who transferred because of him, who came a year before him in college, and then another guy transferred out, who's been balling at Ohio State, looking like one of the best players in college football. So this guy definitely has some talent if he was able to knock a couple of those guys out. But, the guy who he knocked out was Jacob Eason, who's at Washington right now, who actually beat USC this year, not because of him, but throughout the whole entire year, he's showing with this size at 6'6" and having a strong arm that he could show that he could play in the NFL, I think. So it depends if he wants to stay back another year or not. And then Steven Montez, also the quarterback from Colorado. Obviously, USC just beat him, but he did have a pretty solid game. He's getting comparisons to Josh Allen, the quarterback at the Buffalo Bills, who was drafted like 1, 2, or 3 overall, a top 5 pick a couple years ago for the Buffalo Bills out of Wyoming. So it's not a bad. He has a pretty big arm too, and he's somewhat athletic too, which is what you kind of have to look for. A guy who could make plays on the run, so I wouldn't mind that. But receivers, I think most of these guys could be top 2, maybe even top options on any NFL team. But the wide receiver list is so stacked this year that I'm just gonna run them down real quick. So Jalen Reagor, the wide receiver out of TCU, is a guy I'm really interested in, putting up some big numbers also. Then Antonio Gandy Golden, he's from like the smaller school that I have of all the wide receivers in Liberty, but he was a guy I was even looking at last year when I thought he was going to come out, but he decided to stay back in college, and he's still performing very well, still healthy, got bigger, and yeah, he just looks like he's going to be a top pick, at least a first round pick again. But then a guy who I've been noticing a lot is Justin Jefferson, the LSU wide receiver. He makes a lot of plays downfield, uses his size, and he definitely has a lot of speed down there as well. Then you guys had to throw in a USC guy in there, Michael Pittman Jr., at least a guy to be selected second or third round, pretty high for a wide receiver, because he has the height, 6'5", but he's sneaky fast, and once he has the ball, he can make things happen. That's why he was a kick returner in high school and did some his freshman year at USC. Then Tyler Johnson from Minnesota, a guy who I never really knew about until I played fantasy football for college on Yahoo. where I just randomly had him on my team last year, and he was the top target from Minnesota, and he's very talented, does a lot of good stuff, and his other wide receiver, Bateman, that he has on his team is really good also, but I think he's an underclassman, so he's not available for the draft. Then a couple guys from rivals USC, so Colin Johnson, a guy who I was very high on last year from Texas to get on the Chargers because of his size and playmaking ability down the field. Then another guy who I've noticed a lot this year is Chase Claypool, the Notre Dame wide receiver, just because once again a lot of size and very strong, could go up and get anything, and still has a little bit of speed as well for his size. Then Brian Edwards, another South Carolina guy that has been showing pretty good. I know last year I liked Deebo Samuel a lot, but the 49ers picked him very high, and they obviously saw something in him. You know, he's been dealing with some injuries in the NFL right now. He's still pretty solid. I just think this is another guy they brought out and has a lot of talent out there in South Carolina as far as the wide receiver position. But then Jaquan Jennings, wide receiver from Tennessee. Yes, Tennessee is a struggling team, but he is one of the lone bright spots on that team for them. And when they're at least able to click and get the offensive going, he's the main guy on their team and does a lot of good stuff for them. Then Denzel Mims, a Baylor wide receiver. It's always tough to select guys like that because they're in a certain type of offense that's just throwing the ball all the time, but he does have separation ability and great catch radius, so it's another reason why I kind of like him. And then also Aaron Fuller, who's injured right now for Washington, but he can help you in the punt and kick return also. He has, like, I think, a Pac-12 record for punt return touchdowns for his whole career, which is cool, but he's also very good and, you know, consistent receiver as well. So I'm gonna transfer this one down and finish off with the Duke basketball exhibition game that they had. Okay, to end this shizzle, Duke beat Fort Valley State 126-57, so a lot better showing, not, you know, as inconsistent as they were before. I haven't even seen these highlights just because it's always weird for me to watch highlights and then, you know, choose which ones are going to be good enough to put in a video as I'm speaking. So I know some are going off right now, so I'll watch it after this to know. But I know that Joey Baker, a second-year player for Duke, had like 20 some odd points and had like 6 threes, which was pretty cool for him. Doesn't really get much playing time, which is kind of surprising. Just don't know if it's because of his slight frame or whatnot, but if he's gotten this better at shooting, I think definitely will have an opportunity to play, just because their shooting was pretty bad in that other game. But like I said, that was against, you know, the Division II champs and a pretty good solid team who could probably play in Division I. But yeah, this one not so surprising because Fort Valley, never really heard of them. It's probably a crappy team, but I want to say they play Kansas. I want to say in that 2K Hoops Classic to open up the season, which is probably happening next week. But I don't know if it's because it's Kentucky, Kansas, Michigan State, and Duke, all those 4 teams together are at that thing, but they all rotate and play in each other every year. So I think it's Kansas this year, who, at least to me, I don't think is going to be that good. But all those 4 teams are actually the top 4 teams in the nation, which is pretty amazing for that thing. And that's going to be a pretty big night because they play the games back to back that night. So too bad it's not like the winners, and then the winners get to play each other the next day, and then the losers get to play each other the next day, because that'd still be a pretty cool, highly talented game that you'd at least get to either redeem yourself if you lost or show your dominance because of how much you won. But that's how everybody just assumed Duke was going to win every game, because they killed Kentucky, who was probably ranked higher than them at the time by like 50 plus points in that game. But it's because you have Zion and RJ Barrett, that's why. But hopefully I did enough talking so I could get these highlights. But thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a very safe and happy Halloween. Don't eat too much candy. I know I won't, because I don't like caffeine, but definitely will be giving out some in the next couple of family events, just because I know Linda doesn't like her girls to have the candy for too long. But yeah, hopefully we'll see you all soon. I'll probably post some stuff if I do end up having time to come back and go with them a little bit later on tonight. with May and the girls, so you can see their outfits and stuff. And maybe we'll head out to this pretty cool place in Corona where they decorate up this whole street, and not as much trick-or-treating, but just to look at the decorations that they do for Halloween and Christmas. I'm not 100% sure about Halloween, but I know 100% they do it on Christmas. But probably drive by there, see what's going on, see if they have some stuff, and might do a small little video. Might post that tonight, might post it tomorrow. But like I said, thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day. And good luck to my mom's 49ers. Hopefully they should be able to stay undefeated tonight against Arizona, but they might be a spooky game and they might get their first loss of the season. I'm not trying to put that bad luck on them, but yeah, I just think it's too much of a trap game for them, as they say. And I know nobody sticks around to the end of the video, so is that normal? Like, so many cracks on somebody's tongue? I don't know. I've had this for quite a bit ever since I was a teenager, and lucky my tongue hasn't split up like a freaking snake or nothing like that, like naturally. So yeah, hopefully it doesn't get worse as I get older. But yeah, have a great rest of your day.